Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you had a super fantastic, sparkling Magic Monday. What magic sprinkles did you get to sparkle with today? Yeah, sounds good. That sounds good. It's been a very magical day here today. I got a lot of stuff done. Today. I'm actually going cross-eyed looking at the screen right now. But it's been a very productive day. A lot of stuff's got done. I've still got a lot of stuff left to do, but it's time to put the tools down, nourish the body, and get into the Christmas spirit with tonight's movie of It's a Wonderful Life. So I'm looking forward to watching that. I love that movie. It's such a great movie with a huge message. But I just love that movie. And I said I would tell you one of my favorite holiday vacation memories. Yes, I didn't have a lot of chance to think about that today. And I was thinking. Oh, that's one that we did. So when we're living in Virginia, Brad and I decided to get away for a weekend. So there's a place called Charlestown in West Virginia. And just out of Charlestown, there was this really cute little bed and breakfast place. And so we booked in there for the weekend. I think we had like 3 nights there, I think it was. Because I think we left on because it was a long weekend that weekend. Can't remember why it was a long weekend, but it was a long weekend. So we got there Thursday and we didn't leave till Sunday. It was fantastic. The hosts were absolutely amazing. It just sparked more memories. But the bed and breakfast we were staying in, the guy who owns it, his wife was a great cook too. But the husband and wife team that own it, the husband is a huge history nut. And so when they bought the bed and breakfast, he did a lot of research on the land surrounding the house that they were in and everything else. He was able to give us all the history of the house and the land. And it was just fascinating sitting there listening to him. And it turned out that the land that the bed and breakfast was on was owned by George Washington's family, as in George Washington, first president of the U.S. It was owned by his family. And according to the historical records he found about the place, as you come down the street and you turn onto their driveway, this gravel driveway, you go across this little bridge, which is a little stream, and up to the house. And he said that in the records he found was that George Washington actually surveyed that piece of land with the stream on it when he was like 13. I thought, wow, that's really cool. And so we had a wonderful stay there. They had this room. We had to go up these narrow staircases. Poor Brad had to make sure he ducked his head in a couple of places because he was 6'5". These stairs were not designed for 6'5" tall men to walk up. So he had to watch his head a little bit. But we were up on the top floor there. We had a beautiful room with a king-size bed and a day bed in there. And we spent the rest of the afternoon there just like lounging around. And then we went into town for dinner because Brad had reservations at, what is that? Was the George Washington Inn or the Washington Inn or something like that. But it was all done with period food, as in era. And the people were all in the costumes from the late 1700s, early 1800s. And all the food that was served was was as best as they could get to being authentic as to what was served back then as well. The food was amazing. It was amazing. Pretty sure if I pulled up a map of Charlestown, I'd be able to find it. And it was just incredible food. And so we had a wonderful evening enjoying that. The next day we got up, had this amazing breakfast, and then we went, and it was raining. We thought, it's raining. Okay. And so we went for a drive around Charlestown. We ended up in Harpers Ferry, which of course they say is where there was that incident there with can't think of the guy's name. I can see the character from the TV series of North and South that played that guy. But it was believed that the incident with him is the one that is what started the Civil War. So we got to go down. It was pouring with rain by this point. And so we just drove around the area. We didn't get out. We went up to Martinville, something like that. That was along there. Oh, but first of all, on the way there, on the way there, went through this little town, and it had an old-fashioned pharmacy there. And so we went in there for lunch, and it was all done as like an apothecary with the soda fountain there and all that sort of stuff. And we had a really yummy lunch. We were not expecting, we were just expecting to be like deli food. And that, no. This was deli food increased on steroids. And the food was awesome. We had these beautiful grilled sandwiches with this yummy tomato bisque. And then we had the milkshakes, and we just had a blast. We had a great meal there. It was an old-fashioned soda fountain thing. Let's see if I can find them. I've got to go back and find the names of these places. I know I have them in the photo albums because I have photos of these places. And then we went up. So we went down to, from there we went down to Harpers Ferry. Then from there, because it was raining, so it was pouring with rain. It was puckering down. Ray could barely see in front of the front of the car. That's how hard it was coming down. But we made our way up to, was it Martinburg or Martinville? It's got Martin in the beginning of it. And they had this big outlet mall there. So we went so we parked the car and went for a wander through there, and that was pretty cool fun. Was it there that we bought? No, it wasn't there that we bought the crockery. But we had an interesting time just walking through there, just getting out and walking. Because we just felt the need to walk. And we also drove past then when we went back, we drove past no, that was the next day. Then, so we went back out. Where did we go for dinner that night? I can't remember where we went for dinner that night. It was another little local restaurant that we found. Oh no, that night we had taken food back to us to have in our room. That's what we did. But we did spend some time down after dinner. We went down to the living room area that they had there. And the hostess had this huge, quilting loom, quilting hoop. And she didn't do the machine stitching for the quilts. She actually hand stitched the quilting. Because if you look at the quilts, yes, they put all those pieces together, but then there's a top stitch that goes through that creates the designs and everything. And she was doing that all by hand. So we had an interesting evening sitting down there talking with them, talking about the bed and breakfast, talking about the area, talking about her quilting. It was great. And they had a really good library in that living room area as well. I was just sort of like, oh, this is close to my dream room with the big wingback chairs, and the fireplace was going, and the books were there. And then we finally went back up to bed, and then the next morning got up, had a great breakfast again. It was different from the day before. And then we went for a tour around Charlestown. There was a racetrack there that we went and checked out, and they had like this casino area there, but it was all electronic slots. They did have the horses running. We didn't do anything. We just walked through and browsed and all of that sort of thing. And then we went down to the downtown area, and we were walking past the courthouse, and there was this big rock there, and there was this date engraved into the rock. And I thought, I wonder what's so significant about that date. So I took a picture of it, and when I got it's going to tell you how long it goes. When I got the film developed, yes, we were on camera with film at that time. So when we got the photo developed, what did I take a picture? Oh, yes, I was going to go find out that date. And now I can't remember what the date was. But I'm sure if you looked up the Charlestown courthouse picture, there's this rock sitting there. And it was something about April 1863. I want to say, like the 8th of April 1863 or the 18th of April 1863 was there. I think it was 63. And I think that was the day that the guy who started the thing in Harpers Ferry, I think that was the day he was executed, or the day that incident happened. It was all to do with that stuff at Harpers Ferry, if I remember correctly. But it was a really cool weekend to get out there, and the air over there in West Virginia where we were was just crisp. It was clean. It was amazing. All the trees around the place were incredible. It was, I want to say February. Might have been the end of January. I know it was cold because we, whenever we went out, we always had coats with us and sweatshirts and stuff. We put the layers on because of how cold it was. So I want to say we took a long weekend. Maybe we just took a long weekend, and it wasn't actually a federal long weekend, like a holiday weekend or something, but we made it a holiday weekend. So that was really cool. And that was the year before. or the year after we went up to New York. So back in New Zealand in 1990, letter writing was very much alive because we didn't have email back then. And so we had pen pals in different countries around the world, and I had all these different pen pals at the time, but I had this one that was in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes. And so we've been writing backwards and forwards for almost, it must be 99 we went and saw her. And so we decided to take a weekend trip up there. So this is a separate weekend. So we took this weekend trip and we drove up there and we stayed at this bed and breakfast at the bottom of Keuka Lake. And her and her husband lived about halfway up the side of Keuka Lake. And, but we had a great weekend with them. I actually got to meet a pen pal in person. It was awesome. And they lived on this land that has vineyards on there that have been in the family for like 7 or 8 generations or something. It was a very, very long time. And they took us on a tour of the land because they had a hunting lodge there where they would go and hunt wild turkey on their land. And the hunting lodge was basic. It was as basic as you could possibly get in a log cabin. Brad had to duck in there because the roof was so low. They had bunk beds set up for when they were out doing their hunting season and that sort of thing. And I don't even think there was I don't recall there being any bathroom facility. There was definitely no running water in this place, so no bathroom facilities. But it was just really cool. And then they had the area where they processed all the grapes. And then the grapes were then taken up to the wineries. So they sold their grapes to the wineries. And I remember learning about the different grapes that there were for the different wines. And they would pick the bunches of grapes and put them into a basket for us to bring back. And it was very interesting because if you eat a wine grape, it's got a very bitter skin. So what you do is you put the grape in your mouth and you press your tongue against the roof of your mouth with the grape in between. So the tongue becomes like a presser and it squeezes out the juice, and then you spit out the seed and the skin. So when you press the grape above to the roof of your mouth, it pushes the flesh out, leaves the seed behind, and you just get the juice and the flesh. And it was amazing. And they had several different varieties of grapes and sent us home with this great big basket of grapes and everything. It was awesome. And then they took us up to, I want to say it was called Windmill Markets. And it was this outdoor flea market / farmer's market type thing. And that was awesome. I hadn't been to a flea market for a while. And it was great just wandering through things. And they had this basket. There was this basket that cost me $5. And this thing was about that round. The basket piece was about this deep, and then it had this big handle that came over the top. And Brad was like, "How are we going to get that home?" I said, "It'll fit in the boot, in the trunk." And he wasn't so sure about that because the 4 of us were out in our car at that time. And so we got it into the trunk. It fitted fine. He said, "What are you going to use that for?" I said, "The blankets in the family room." So when I took it home, I put it at the end of the couch and folded up all the blankets, the throw rugs that we had, and put them in that basket. And that's what that basket was used for until we moved to California when we decided to sell it. But it cost us $5. And I think I got 10 for it at the garage sale a few years later. Oh my gosh, I made money on that basket. But it was a really cool basket. And yeah, it held all of our throw blankets in there. And then where else did we go? Oh, we went to dinner one evening up in Penyan, which is at the top end of the lake. And the food was all done by Mennonites, and it was yum. It was good old-fashioned home cooking food, and it was awesome. And all around the walls and everything, they had these gorgeous quilts on display that were made by Mennonites. And they brought them in here to sell in the thing, and beautiful craftsmanship on them. Beautiful craftsmanship. And then so we were only up there for like the 2 nights. We had we had dinner at their place one night. So it must have been there 3 nights. Or did we go there the night that we arrived? I think that might have been another extended weekend thing where we were away for 3 nights. And then we had this great drive back home, and Brad actually drove us back down through Corning. And was it in Corning they had the pink house? There was this beautiful Victorian house painted pink. Pink. And it had white trim on it. And there was a story behind the house, which I totally don't remember that. But while we're in Corning, we drove over to where the Corningware Factory, and they were, of course, closed that day because it was Sunday. And yeah, so we knew where all the Corningware came from, and they didn't even have their little retail store open, so we just carried on home. But we had this beautiful scenic drive up there and the scenic drive home, and upstate New York was absolutely stunning. And years ago, my pen pal had told me that it's called the Finger Lakes because when you look at it from above, it looks like God's put his hand on the earth and made an impression at that point. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. And yeah, I could definitely see it looked like a handprint and that sort of thing. So that's what that was all about. But we had a fantastic weekend up there. And again, that fresh, clean air out of the cities and everything. Oh, maybe that's where I could put my cabin. No, there's no mountains around because it doesn't. Yeah. Okay. But it was a lot of fun up there. We had a great weekend and being able to see my pen pal for the first time and talk and sit and talk and all of that. And we had a great time with her and her husband. And the four of us just had a great weekend together. So I loved that trip. And I got more trips floating into my head. But I need to go now because I got to get It's Wonderful Life started because it's a 2 hour and 10 minute movie. And at this rate, let's see, coming up on 7 o'clock, it's going to be just after 9 o'clock, which would be the perfect time to go to bed and read for a bit. So what was magic about your day? What are some of your favorite holiday and vacation memories? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to write them down and record them for future generations because they want to see. And I'm working on a project figuring out how to set it up. And it'll probably be sitting here with my phone pointed at the screen. I haven't decided yet how I'm going to do it because otherwise I've got to pull out Brad's Whippy-Doo camera, and because of the size, and his camera has like all the bells and whistles, and because of the size of it, I don't know if I put on just like one of those little mini tripods, I don't think I have enough room here for it to be able to focus on the screen. And my thought was to go through some of the photo albums of my digital photos that I have and go through the photo albums and talk about the stories behind the pictures and make a little movie montage of them, and we'll see how that goes. And then I can get it printed out and then get it transcribed, put the photographs in there so they can see the pictures that I'm talking about, and that way I could end up with a printed copy of it, the video copy of it, and yeah, call it a day. What do you know? But anyway, go out, have a super fun day, and that's a great way to put your story down, by the way. Go get your photographs, sit with a video camera or some way to record the photographs and just talk about the photographs. Who is in the, and you just, basic information. It may just be basic information. And I was talking to people, who was I talking to this weekend about getting an archive pencil, and you can pick them up at Michael's in the scrapbooking area. You get the archive safe pencils, and on the back of the photos, you write don't hard press on them, but you write who was in the photo, when it was taken, and where it was taken. Those 3 elements need to be there. And then you can tell the story and then record telling the story, holding the picture there for the camera and record the story about that picture, who was in it, where it was taken, when it was taken, and what do you know about the people that are in the photograph? What do you know about why this photograph was taken? Or any information you know about that photograph and the story behind why it was taken, record it. That way you can then get it transcribed later. You can get it all put into a book with the photographs scanned and put them in the correct places and everything else. It's just a quick way to do a book and make that a gift for your family one year for Christmas. That would be really cool. Anyway, I'm out of here. Go have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here bright and early tomorrow morning for Tune Up Tuesday. Hey, Conora.